Hello, welcome. I'm Mr. Hutchings, and this is Mr. Hutchings History. Today is topic 5.9, supporting the AP World History program, Society and the Industrial Age from 1750 to 1900. Our AP themes will be social interactions and organization, cultural developments and interactions, and environmental impacts. Our historical reasoning skills will be continuity and change over time and causation. Charles Dickens once described an industrial city night as a time for the well housed to gather by warm fires, and for the homeless to lie down and die. That contrast captures the heart of the industrial age. Industrialization transformed economies and states, but its deepest impact was on ordinary lives, where people lived, how families worked, who held power, and who bore risk. Today's guiding question is simple but profound. How did industrialization reshape social hierarchies and standards of living? During the first half of the 19th century, cities expanded faster than governments could plan. Factories attracted workers from rural villages. Immigrants crossed borders. Housing sprang up quickly and cheaply, often without sanitation, without clean water, and without safety standards. The result was the tenement, crowded apartment buildings packed into urban slums. These neighborhoods suffered from polluted water, open sewage, and constant disease. Cholera outbreaks spread rapidly. Fire, crime, and violence were common. Industrialization thus produced urban density without urban protection. Why did governments initially allow such dangerous urban conditions to persist? Because rapid growth outpaced regulation, and governments prioritized industrial output over public health in the early stages of industrialization. Industrialization reorganized society into new classes. At the base was the working class, factory laborers, and coal miners who performed repetitive, low skill work. The factory system and interchangeable parts stripped workers of the satisfaction of crafting complete products. Managers viewed workers as replaceable, keeping wages low through competition. Above them emerged a new middle class: managers, office workers, professionals, and small business owners. Literacy and education defined their status. The middle class benefited most directly from industrial prosperity. At the top stood industrialists and corporate owners, who soon overshadowed the old landed aristocracy as society's power brokers. This shift illustrates continuity and change. Hierarchy remained, but wealth replaced land as the primary source of power. Industrialization altered not only class, but time itself. Before factories, families worked together at home or in fields, organizing labor around seasons and daylight. Industrial work demanded fixed schedules. Factory whistles dictated waking, breaks, and rest. Workers labored up to 14 hours a day, 6 days a week. Exhaustion was common. Injuries and deaths from machinery were frequent. Work and home separated for the first time on a mass scale. How did factory schedules change family life? Factory schedules separated family members for long hours, reduced shared labor, and shifted authority from households to employers. Low wages forced families to send children to work. Children as young as 5 labored in textile mills and coal mines. The size of the child made them useful for crawling into machines or tight mine shafts, but dust damaged their lungs and accidents were common. Mine collapses, flooding, heat, and coal dust made child labor in mining especially deadly. Over time, reform movements pushed back. Britain banned child labor in mines and made education compulsory by the late 19th century. Industrialization thus redefined childhood from labor necessity to a protected stage of life. Industrialization affected women differently by their social class. Working class women labored in textile factories and, until outlawed, in coal mines. Employers preferred women because they could be paid half of a man's wage. These women worked full time while also managing households and children. Middle class women, by contrast, were expected not to work outside the home. Their confinement to domestic roles became a status symbol, signaling that a husband could provide for the family alone. Advertising and popular culture promoted a cult of domesticity, portraying women as pious, submissive, and devoted to the home. Ironically, industrialization also sparked early feminism. As men left communities for work, women took on new responsibilities. In 1848, the Seneca Falls Convention in the United States openly demanded political equality. Why did industrialization both restrict and expand women's roles? Because economic change created new labor demands, while cultural ideas attempted to preserve traditional gender hierarchies. Industrial cities poisoned their own surroundings. Coal burning factories filled the air with smog, causing respiratory disease. Rivers became dumping grounds for sewage and industrial waste. Cholera and typhoid spread through contaminated water. The Thames River in London became so polluted that it spread disease throughout the city until public sanitation systems were built. Over time, governments responded by creating police and fire departments, sanitation laws, sewage systems, and building codes. Environmental damage thus forced the growth of modern urban governance. Despite immense suffering, industrialization eventually improved living standards for many. Mass production made goods cheaper and more accessible. The middle class gained access to housing, education, culture, and leisure. Theaters, concert halls, sports facilities, and public parks flourished. Yet these gains were unevenly distributed. Working class hardship persisted. Colonial regions supplied raw materials while suffering environmental and economic exploitation. Global inequality widened. Industrialization raised living standards, but not equally and not immediately. Topic 5.9 shows that industrialization reshaped daily life, not just economies. This topic reinforces causation, that economic systems produce social outcomes. The topic reinforces continuity and change, that hierarchy persisted, but forms of the hierarchy shifted. And finally, there's theme integration across society, culture, and environment. This topic also prepares students to understand later labor movements, public health reforms, feminism, and environmental activism. Industrialization built the modern world, but behind every machine was a human story of migration, struggle, adaptation, and resilience. Understanding the industrial age requires more than knowing inventions. It requires how people lived with those inventions. When societies pursue growth, how should they measure success? Not only by production and wealth, but by health, dignity, and fairness across social groups. I'm Mr. Hutchings, and thank you for listening to this episode of Mr. Hutchings History. And always, keep reading history. It matters.